Have you ever wondered why rulers act in ways that seem cruel, deceptive, or inexplicable? Why some truths about power are never taught or discussed openly? Today, we uncover the forbidden wisdom Machiavelli warned us about, knowledge so dark that most are never meant to possess it. By the end of this, you'll see the hidden mechanics of power that shape history, and why understanding them could change everything you thought you knew. In the shadows of history, truth is often buried. The rulers you admire, the governments you trust, and even the societies you live in are guided not by what is noble, but by what is necessary. I am your guide into this darkness, where the rules of morality bend and only the cunning survive. Brace yourself, for what you are about to learn is not taught in schools, nor shared in polite conversation. This is Machiavelli's warning. Some knowledge is too dark for the faint of heart. Power is never as simple as it seems. It is not the grand speeches, the gilded crowns, or the applause of the people that defines it. True power lives in shadows. It is quiet, it is invisible, and it moves where the eye cannot see. And yet, most people believe that power is obvious, that those in control flaunt their strength and their wisdom for all to witness. This is the first deception you must unlearn. The truth is, the most influential hands are often the ones that never appear in public. The strings pulled behind the curtain, the whispers in dimly lit rooms that dictate the course of nations without ever entering the record books. Look at history, and you will see that those who wield power openly often fall quickly. The rulers who announce their intentions, who declare their plans, who seek applause before action, are exposed to their enemies and betrayed by those they trust. True power, by contrast, is hidden not because it is ashamed of itself, but because it is aware of the dangers of exposure. Knowledge of it is a privilege. To see how power is truly exercised is a dangerous endeavor, and the mind that comprehends it must be prepared to wrestle with discomfort, with moral ambiguity, with truths most are not meant to confront. Consider the workings of government and leadership. Laws are written for the many, while strategy is reserved for the few. Public proclamations, ceremonies, and traditions are the masks of power, the veneer that keeps the population compliant and unaware. Beneath this surface lies the machinery of influence, decisions made in secrecy, alliances forged quietly, enemies neutralized before they even realize they are a threat. Those who understand this machinery know that the visible world is a performance, the invisible world is reality, and the gap between the two is the shadow where survival and dominance reside. Even the closest advisors, the ministers and confidants, often know only fragments of the whole. To know too much is to invite suspicion. To speak too freely is to invite ruin. The true ruler operates in layers, compartmentalizing knowledge, manipulating perception, and ensuring that the shape of power is never fully understood by those outside the inner circle. It is a delicate dance, where misstep can be fatal. Every decision, every action, every word must be measured not only for its immediate effect, but for its unseen consequences in the hidden corridors of influence. And the danger is not only external. Human nature itself resists recognition of hidden truths. People desire simplicity, clarity, and moral certainty. They prefer the comforting illusion that those in power are benevolent and just, to reveal the mechanics of control, the subtle manipulations, the calculated deceptions, the ruthless prioritization of survival over morality, is to challenge deeply held beliefs. Many cannot bear it. Those who attempt to confront the hidden nature of power often find themselves disoriented, questioning their understanding of right and wrong, uncertain of who to trust, and vulnerable to forces they cannot see. This is precisely why such knowledge is dangerous, and why Machiavelli insisted that it remain mostly hidden from the masses. Yet, there is a magnetism in knowing. The mind that glimpses the machinery of power cannot help but be drawn in, compelled to understand its workings. You begin to notice patterns where others see chaos. You perceive motives behind actions that appear random. You detect the invisible strings that connect allies and adversaries, the subtle calculations that shape outcomes long before they manifest. And with each revelation comes a responsibility to navigate this shadow world wisely, for ignorance can protect, but understanding can also make you a target. So ask yourself, what is power? Is it what you see in the courts, the parliaments, the speeches? Or is it the hidden hand guiding events, unseen but unrelenting? The difference is critical. To grasp this hidden nature is to glimpse the reality of human ambition, the quiet strategies that ensure victory, and the unseen forces that maintain control. History is full of those who underestimated the shadow, who believed that appearances reflected truth, and who paid the ultimate price for their naivety. To witness power as it truly exists is to step into a world few dare to enter, a world of uncertainty, strategy, and consequences that ripple far beyond the eyes of the public. And it is here, in this hidden world, that the rules are different. What the many perceive as strength may in fact be weakness. What appears chaotic may be orchestrated with precision. What seems cruel may be necessary. Understanding the hidden nature of power does not make one virtuous or evil. It makes one aware, and with awareness comes choice. But choice in such a shadowed realm is fraught with peril. For every move, every insight, every action, there is a response from forces unseen, and a cost that cannot always be measured. It is in this darkness that the most important lessons of power are learned, and where only those who comprehend the hidden rules can hope to survive and thrive. Power, in its rawest form, does not concern itself with morality as the masses understand it. Virtue, honor, and justice are ideals, comforting illusions that soothe the conscience of the ordinary citizen. But for those who seek to command, these ideals are often obstacles rather than guides. The reality of leadership, the cold machinery of influence, demands decisions that are not measured by morality alone, but by necessity. And this is the first lesson a student of power must accept. The ends often justify the means, not in rhetoric, but in the quiet logic of survival. Imagine a ruler faced with rebellion, famine, or a threat that could dismantle everything built over decades. To act purely in accordance with moral principles may result in disaster. Mercy at the wrong moment can be fatal, honesty can betray, and hesitation can invite enemies to strike. The world of power is not a courtroom where virtue is rewarded, nor a church where intentions are weighed. It is a battlefield, a chessboard, a place where the consequences of action, or inaction, determine life and death, prosperity and ruin. Here, the morality of the individual is subordinated to the morality of results. History offers countless examples. Consider the leaders who, in times of crisis, enacted harsh measures that the public would later decry, yet whose actions preserved their states or prevented chaos. It is easy to judge such actions from the comfort of hindsight, to label them cruel, manipulative, or immoral. But judgment ignores the context, the urgency, the stakes, the necessity. In the moment, these decisions are not crimes, they are survival. Machiavelli warned that a prince who clings to conventional morality may lose everything, while the one who adapts, who tempers conscience with calculation, may secure a legacy that spans generations. This is not to suggest that morality is irrelevant. On the contrary, it is a tool, a consideration, a lens through which one navigates human perception. The appearance of virtue can be as powerful as virtue itself, for it maintains loyalty, discourages dissent, and cultivates obedience. But it must never be mistaken for the entirety of action. The ruler must understand that moral gestures are sometimes performances, necessary illusions to maintain stability, while the real work, the manipulation, the strategic cruelty, the difficult sacrifices remains unseen. The public rarely needs, and rarely benefits from, the full truth. And herein lies the peril for those who seek to understand power. It forces a confrontation with uncomfortable truths. To achieve a necessary outcome, one may have to deceive allies, betray promises, or commit acts that would be condemned in private life. These are not mere acts of wickedness, but calculated measures designed to protect, expand, and secure authority. The ends, whether the survival of a state, the protection of a people, or the preservation of order, and demand actions that appear reprehensible on the surface. This is the paradox. The higher the responsibility, the murkier the ethical terrain becomes. Every decision, every policy, Every maneuver is a balance between perception and necessity. A ruler must weigh the immediate consequences against the long-term stability of their realm. A seemingly ruthless action today may prevent widespread suffering tomorrow. Conversely, inaction out of moral hesitation may bring catastrophe. To live as a leader in this world is to constantly reconcile one's conscience with the demands of survival. To accept that what is condemned in theory may be indispensable in practice. Those who fail to grasp this principle are quickly swept aside by those who do. And it is not only rulers who face this dilemma. Anyone who wields influence, whether in business, politics, or society, encounters the tension between ethics and outcomes. The human instinct is to avoid harm, to seek justice, to act according to principle. Yet the path of influence requires a broader vision. One must understand that sometimes preserving the greater good, maintaining stability, or achieving a strategic advantage may necessitate actions that conflict with immediate moral instincts. To act without this understanding is to surrender to naivety, to hope that the world conforms to the ideals of conscience rather than the realities of human behavior. It is here, in this moral twilight, that Machiavelli's lesson becomes most vivid. The ruler must be prepared to accept actions that the heart recoils from, to wield power with clarity of purpose rather than purity of intent. This is not a prescription for cruelty for its own sake, but a recognition that the universe of leadership is not fair, and morality alone cannot protect a state or a position. Strategy, calculation, and the careful alignment of means to ends are the currencies of power, and mastery of them separates those who endure from those who fall. To witness this truth is unsettling. It forces one to reconsider the very concept of right and wrong, to understand that context, consequence, and necessity often outweigh principle. The morality of ends versus means is not a subject for polite debate. It is the harsh reality of influence and survival. The world does not reward the idealist who hesitates in the face of necessity, nor does it forgive the leader who allows sentiment to cloud judgment. In the shadowed halls of authority, decisions are measured not by virtue alone, but by results. And it is within these shadows that the true mechanics of power reveal themselves, stark and uncompromising. To understand power, one must first understand control. But control is not exercised through force alone, nor through open decree. True control is subtle. It is a whisper in the right ear at the right time, a carefully placed rumor, a gesture that shapes perception without leaving evidence of intent. The masses are rarely aware of the forces that steer them, for manipulation works best when it is invisible. And this, above all, is the domain of the astute ruler or strategist, to guide the world not with blunt authority, but with calculated influence that bends desire, fear, and ambition to one's will. Consider the illusion of choice. People believe they act freely, yet their decisions are often carefully orchestrated by unseen hands. A ruler who understands manipulation knows how to structure options so that every path leads to the desired outcome, while the participant feels empowered, independent, and virtuous. This is not tyranny in the traditional sense, nor is it overt coercion. It is control achieved through subtlety, through shaping perception, through ensuring that even rebellion, if it occurs, strengthens rather than weakens authority. Control is also the mastery of information. Those who know the truth and those who do not are never equals. Secrets, carefully withheld or selectively revealed, are the currency of power. To expose too much is to invite chaos. To conceal too little is to lose leverage. Every whisper, every letter, every conversation can be weaponized or neutralized depending on how it is managed. The ruler who understands this does not rely solely on law or military strength. Instead, they manipulate the very minds and emotions of those around them, turning allies into instruments and enemies into predictable elements within a larger strategy. Fear and respect are two tools often wielded. Together, Fear restrains, respect binds. A clever ruler understands the balance. Too much fear breeds rebellion. Too little respect invites contempt. The art of manipulation is knowing when to apply each, when to appear merciful, when to show decisive cruelty, and when to step back entirely, allowing the currents of ambition and desire to work in one's favor. It is a dynamic, ongoing calculation that requires observation, intuition, and an unflinching understanding of human nature. Manipulation extends beyond individuals to entire populations. Public perception is the most fragile element of control. Leaders who can shape narrative, who can create heroes and villains, who can manufacture crises and offer solutions, wield influence that appears organic, but is entirely orchestrated. The populace rarely perceives the scaffolding that supports their beliefs. They see only what is presented. And those who do perceive it often underestimate its depth, its subtlety, its effectiveness. In this, deception is not immoral. It is necessary. It maintains order and ensures survival in a world that is inherently competitive and unpredictable. All manipulation, however, depends on understanding human desire. People act not according to reason alone, but according to hope, fear, envy, pride, and ambition. To manipulate effectively is to recognize these forces, to anticipate their reactions, and to guide them without revealing the hand that directs them. The best ruler, the best strategist, does not coerce through brute force. They coerce through insight, through shaping the environment in which choices are made, through ensuring that every action, every perception, every emotion aligns with the intended outcome. This is why secrecy is paramount. Transparency, while lauded in moral theory, is the enemy of control. Those who reveal too much open themselves to challenge. Those who conceal too little lose authority. The subtle manipulator acts like a conductor, invisible yet indispensable, shaping events and guiding outcomes, while the participants remain unaware of the orchestration. And the more invisible the control, the more powerful it becomes, for it becomes self-reinforcing. People follow willingly, believing they act independently, while the manipulator remains untouchable, directing without exposure. Manipulation is not cruelty, nor is it necessarily deception. For its own sake, it is strategy. It is the understanding that people are predictable, not in the details of their actions, but in the patterns of their desires and fears. To master manipulation is to recognize these patterns, to anticipate reactions, and to engineer circumstances that guide behavior toward outcomes that serve one's objectives. History is full of rulers, generals, and advisors who understood this principle. They rarely needed armies to dominate, for their influence flowed like water, unseen, infiltrating every channel of decision, making every sphere of power, every mind susceptible to guidance. And the danger of understanding this is profound. To see manipulation in action is to realize the fragility of freedom as it is commonly understood. Those who perceive the hidden currents are confronted with the uncomfortable truth that few act independently, and even fewer are immune to the shaping forces around them. Once this awareness is gained, one cannot return to ignorance. One begins to notice patterns, to detect hidden agendas, to understand motives that others overlook. And with understanding comes responsibility. The responsibility to act wisely, or risk becoming a pawn in the very games one now comprehends. Manipulation and control are the lifeblood of influence. They are not openly celebrated, nor widely understood, but they are indispensable. The ruler, the strategist, the one who seeks lasting power, must embrace these truths without sentiment, without hesitation, without moralizing. For in the shadowed realm where influence is exercised, subtlety is strength, invisibility is protection, and the mastery of human behavior is the ultimate weapon. It is here in this quiet, deliberate orchestration that power truly resides, and it is here that only those who understand the rules can thrive. There are truths in the world that are hidden for a reason. Some knowledge is not meant for the curious, the naive, or the unprepared. To encounter it is to step into a realm where certainty vanishes and every assumption is tested. This is the danger of forbidden knowledge. It illuminates realities that most would rather ignore, and it reveals forces and patterns that can disrupt both comfort and security. Those who seek to understand the machinery of power, the shadows behind governance, or the true motives of men must do so at their own peril. For ignorance, though protective, is often bliss. Forbidden knowledge is dangerous because it challenges perception. People are accustomed to living within frameworks of morality, expectation, and social order. They believe in cause and effect as they understand it, in fairness as they hope it exists, in the rationality of human behavior as they imagine it, and then they discover the hidden mechanisms that contradict all of this. The manipulation, the deception, the calculated cruelty, the self-interest lurking behind every public gesture. Once this veil is lifted, it is impossible to return to naivety. The mind that has glimpsed hidden truths cannot unsee them, and the world as it is commonly understood becomes a stage of illusion and strategy. The danger is not merely intellectual, it is moral and psychological. Forbidden knowledge forces confrontation with the uncomfortable fact that survival, influence, and success rarely follow the rules of virtue. Those who possess it must reconcile their conscience with a reality that is often ruthless, where justice is subordinate to power, and where outcomes matter more than intentions. Many who stumble upon these truths experience disorientation, doubt, and a profound unease with the simplicity of the moral frameworks they once relied upon. Some are paralyzed by it, others corrupted, and only a few learn to navigate it with clarity and purpose. Knowledge becomes forbidden not because it is wrong, but because it is dangerous. Understanding the motives that drive leaders, the patterns that dictate history, or the subtle forces that shape human behavior grants power, but it also attracts risk. Those who wield such insight are capable of extraordinary influence, but they are also visible to others who understand its value. To know too much, to act without discretion, is to invite danger from those who prefer the darkness remains unbroken. It is a paradox. Knowledge empowers, yet it simultaneously exposes the seeker to consequences they may not anticipate. History is filled with examples of men and women who sought forbidden knowledge and paid dearly for it. Scholars who uncovered secrets of statecraft, advisors who saw the strings behind thrones, innovators who understood the leverage of unseen forces. Many were rewarded, but many were destroyed. The reason is simple. Human systems are designed to maintain equilibrium. Secrets are concealed to preserve order. Revelation, even when well-intentioned, disrupts that order. To gain forbidden knowledge is to step outside the protection of collective ignorance, to become acutely aware of both fragility of systems and the vulnerability of oneself. The very act of learning the hidden truths of power requires vigilance. It is not enough to simply understand the mechanics. One must also master discretion, anticipate responses, and cultivate allies who are trustworthy. For betrayal is common when knowledge challenges entrenched hierarchies. Mind that acquires forbidden insight must operate as a strategist, constantly calculating, constantly aware of the consequences of exposure. To underestimate this danger is to risk not only failure, but annihilation. It is a knowledge that demands respect, patience, and an unwavering sense of self-discipline. Forbidden knowledge also carries a psychological weight. To comprehend the hidden forces that shape human behavior is to recognize the limits of freedom, the manipulability of desire, and the omnipresence of ambition and fear. It is to understand that what people perceive as choice, morality, or truth is often a carefully constructed illusion. For some, this understanding brings clarity, strategy, and insight. For others, it brings cynicism, despair, and moral confusion. The danger lies not just in possessing knowledge, but in what it does to the mind and spirit of the possessor. And yet, despite the peril, forbidden knowledge exerts an irresistible attraction. The mind seeks to uncover patterns, to see the unseen, to grasp the mechanisms that shape events. It is a form of power, a tool of insight, a means to anticipate, influence, and survive. But it is also a test. The seeker must discern which truths to act upon, which to observe silently, and which to ignore. Misjudgment can be fatal, Action without wisdom, revelation without caution, or pride without prudence can turn insight into a weapon against oneself. It is knowledge that must be tempered with strategy, patience, and an understanding of human nature at its most unvarnished. The danger of forbidden knowledge is therefore twofold. It is both the threat it poses externally and the burden it imposes internally. Externally, it makes the possessor a target, a threat to those who prefer ignorance or illusion. Internally, it forces a confrontation with realities that unsettle the mind, challenge morality, and demand judgment beyond conventional understanding. To navigate this realm is to enter a world where the cost of awareness is high, where every revelation carries responsibility, and where the clarity it offers is matched by the risks it entails. It is in this tension between illumination and peril that the forbidden becomes both a prize and a hazard, a truth that can elevate or destroy, depending on the wisdom of the one who dares to hold it. We have walked together through the shadows of power, peered into the machinery that shapes the world, and glimpsed truths that few are meant to see. We have seen that power is hidden, that morality is often a tool rather than a guide, that manipulation governs far more than force ever could, and that forbidden knowledge is as dangerous as it is illuminating. These are the lessons Machiavelli left for those brave, or perhaps foolish, enough to seek understanding beyond appearances. Remember this, the world is not as it seems. Those who rule do not answer to virtue, but to necessity. They do not operate in the light, but in shadows where every decision is calculated, every action measured, every secret leveraged. To comprehend this is to gain insight, but also to accept the weight of responsibility. Knowledge in the realm of power is a double-edged sword. It can protect, it can empower, and it can reveal the path to influence. Yet it can also isolate, unsettle, and expose those who dare to wield it without caution. The lessons are not comfortable, nor are they moral in the conventional sense, but they are real, and in a world governed by ambition, fear, and desire, understanding the hidden truths is the only way to survive, and perhaps to thrive. Those who ignore them remain at the mercy of forces they cannot see, while those who embrace them must navigate the shadows with vigilance, wisdom, and clarity of purpose. Machiavelli's warning was never a call to cruelty, nor a justification for evil. It was a call to awareness, a reminder that the world is more complex, more calculated, and more dangerous than polite conversation allows. Power, strategy, and human nature do not bend to wishful thinking. They obey rules that are invisible to the untrained eye and unforgiving to the unprepared mind. So take this knowledge, let it sharpen your understanding, but do not let it corrupt your judgment. The shadows you have glimpsed are real, but they are not the whole world. They are the machinery behind the curtain, the engine of influence, and the reminder that to see the truth is to shoulder responsibility. And as you leave this journey, remember that wisdom lies not only in knowing what others cannot see, but in knowing how to act wisely once you do. This is Machiavelli's warning. The world is darker than you imagine, the truth's more unsettling than you expect, and the path to influence more treacherous than it appears. But in the shadows, for those who understand, lies the ultimate power, the power to see clearly, to act decisively, and to survive where others falter.